How we doing, guys? And welcome back to the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. I've got some excellent topics we're going to hit on, predominantly pertaining to the two New York baseball teams. But before we go there, I've got a new guest with me. Me and this guy go back a very long time. Texas Ranger fan, Dallas Cowboy fan, Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan. My man, Michael Zappi. How you doing, buddy?
Bud, it's a pleasure. It's a good pleasure to finally be on the show with you. Doing very well, thank you.
Yeah, it's cool, man. There's a bonus to get you on. It was super sporadic. We were just catching up on the phone on my ride back home, and in the course of that conversation, a lot has happened in the baseball world, and a lot's going to continue to happen. We're going to start right here. This hurts. There's no other way around it. I mean, I could cop out and be like, we got some injuries in the pen. And the bottom line is right now the Mets are playing better baseball. And as much as it pains me to say this, I have to give credit where it's due. It's a huge message sending it to the Yankees, 2 straight games. The Yankees going into the All-Star break, one of the hottest teams in baseball just for the entire course of the first half. And over their last 22 games, I believe they're 10-12 or 10-13 now. They're having a rough go. Michael King out for the year. Chad Green out for the year. And the bullpen has been hurting. And the Yankees don't have the luxury right now to get behind a few runs. Tonight, Scherzer looked great. Penn pitched better. The Yankees did not pitch bad. Domingo Germán's second start of the year, but what is your crosstown rivals who are definitely gunning for the top spot in the city? It's a message. Mets definitely sent it.
Now, the only thing about that is if there's ever a time to be going through a losing streak or struggling, it's at the end of July, beginning of August, instead of in September when it's time for playoff baseball. So while the Yankees are getting hurt, I mean, you mentioned 2 guys out. You got to also talk about Stanton, who might be out, 2 to 3 weeks for you guys?
Yeah, Achilles tendonitis, which kind of leads to this. And in my opinion, the motivation, there's 2 reasons why this trade happened today, just after the ball game. Andrew Benintendi, former Red Sox and now a former Kansas City Royal, is headed to New York. This essentially marks the end of the Joey Gallo era. And also, yeah, I'm aware. You were not pleased when we made that trade.
No, I called you. Yeah, I called you immediately, told you about how my son was crying because that's his favorite baseball player and how I was pissed off at the fact that we traded who he's still a young player, but we traded the heart and soul of that team. And, that guy meant a lot in the Dallas, Arlington, Fort Worth community. And then to see him to go to New York out of all places, I remembered the phone call. I was pissed off about it.
Yeah, well, if it makes you feel any better, now I'm pissed off about it. Not everybody's cut out to play in New York. Joey Gallo, we knew what we were getting in terms of the strikeouts. But his walks usually canceled out the strikeouts. And the man usually hit 30, 35 homers a year, but this has been a historically bad year for not just Joey Gallo in terms of his career, but just a historically bad year. This is like Chris Davis territory to where Gallo has struggled. And Yankees sending 3 minor league arms, Chandler Chaplin, TJ Sycamore, and Beck Way. This has 2 meanings and 2 reasons for it. The Gallo factor, and you just mentioned Giancarlo Stanton being out for the better part of 3 weeks. It was a necessary move. The Yankees cannot afford to have an automatic out in that lineup going into this crunch where they're trying to hold off the Houston Astros.
And absolutely, especially adding a bat like his. I mean, the guy gets on base. I believe this year he's got 3 homers, 38 RBIs, but he's sitting over 300 for the season. And he's been constantly doing that throughout his career, even going back to when he was a Red Sox. He's got 3 years of playoff experience to back him up with that trade. So not only is he bringing a bat, but he's bringing the guy that knows how to win when it comes to October time, September, October. So you put him in there. You put him in there at the left field. It fills a void now because, like you said, with Stanton and now Gallo looks like he's got 1 foot out the door. But it also allows you guys to kind of not have to readjust the lineup too much. So, you got yourself a guy who's probably going to be hitting 1 or 2 for you guys. And now you go from there.
Honestly, I would feel comfortable potentially putting him right in front of Judge. And the only – because Judge usually hits second. And the only other way I would do it is reverse the lineup and have him hit at the bottom of it. They're not going to do that for the simple reason of his on-base percentage. He hits for average. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he leads Major League Baseball in singles. He's not the home run pop that he had in Fenway. In Fenway, he had a little more pop, or even in his early Royals days. But this is a great pickup. It's a rental. It could be an extension after the rent, but it's definitely a rental.
It's most definitely a rental because of the simple fact that, like you stated, during the first half of the season, the Yankees, they were running over everybody. I mean, it was just a matter of who was going to hit the next home run. When is Judge going to hit another? But now the term adversity comes into play with this team, and you guys are facing it on many levels. So I have to say, I get like that trade today, I give it a good trade. I think it's a great trade for the Yankees. It's only the first trade of what I think will be 2 to 3 more to come for this team.
Now, before we even get on these trades, and yes, I do agree there's more that needs to be done if they really have aspirations of beating whoever comes out of the NL, and if they even get there, which would mean getting past the team that has always held them down, the Houston Astros. But before we even get on the potential trades, I do want to speak on this with you. I know you do as well. Obviously, we agree that Gallo's days are numbered, but let's revisit last year's trade because you, prior to going on the air, are very pleased with the return that you got on that.
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, Texas's farm system is very strong. It's one of the best in Major League Baseball right now. But then when you talk about the likes of Ezekiel Duran, which was one of the players you guys traded to us, he's been playing great. And his opportunities he's had to play with the Rangers, he has been doing a phenomenal job. The guy looks like a Major League Baseball player. And then you have Josh Smith, who's been playing very well for us too. He's still young. He still has his hiccups here and there. Another guy that I love. And what I love about it is because obviously the Rangers went and spent $500 million this offseason to get Marcus Semien and Corey Seager. Ezekiel Duran and Josh Smith could possibly be the future replacements of those two. That's what I love about this trade. Or in the event if one of those two guys gets hurt, you can fill them right in. And then the other one is Glenn Otto. Glenn Otto's pitching actually surprised the hell out of me. I did not think he was going to be doing this well in the majors, but he's been pitching the hell of a good time. I'm looking at him as he can very well be a good 13 to 15 game winner next year, maybe a little more. Obviously, when it goes to the Rangers now, they still have some stuff they need to do. They need another bat. They definitely need pitching, but they have a lot of pitching in their farm system that'll make it suffice. Now, going back to the trade, I look at it as, we gave up Joey Gallo, who's a guy that hit 42 home runs for Texas one year, was a back-to-back All-Star, did so much for this team. But we got 3 investments that have been working out when I look at the bigger picture for Texas, that they're spending money finally. They have an excellent farm system, and they're competing this year. And how do I know they're competing? Well, they're 5-23 on the season in 1-run games. That's something that has a lot to do with the pitching. And that's something that why I could see that they're there, So going back to the trade, I love it, but I hated it. And I wouldn't be surprised if Gallo's back in Texas because he just might not handle the spotlight very well.
I tend to think that if there is something in terms of what's the remaining on that little bit that's left on that deal, And if the Rangers can even so much as swap something that the Yankees might be able to cultivate and work with, I would not be the least bit surprised because, to be honest with you, I tend to think that that's going to be the most interest Gallo is going to get.
Yeah,
because of the fact that he's proven that he could play there. Obviously, it was a nightmare for him as well as the team in New York. The one thing that he's always brought is being an elite defender. But the bottom line is that coming into this playoff run, they could not justify keeping him in that lineup a day longer. And that, I think we may have lost you. Let's see here. Gonna try to get my buddy Zappy back in here. Well, we'll see how that plays out. I just sent Zappy another invite. What he was saying prior to being cut off, Gallo's Yankee days are numbered, as I already alluded to. It's truly been a nightmare for him, and that was a huge reason for the purpose of the Benintendi trade, along with Giancarlo Stanton having Achilles tendonitis. He's going to be going through some rehab assignment, and the Yankees really needed this help. He brings speed, he brings experience. Going to get back on my Yankees and potentially what they might be looking at and what they need. Bullpen depth. Hard not to justify viewing bullpen depth as a need. With the two injuries to Michael King, here he is. With the two injuries to Michael King, as well as Chad Green, I tend to think that although Zach Britton is coming back, he's far from a sure thing to be the player he was a few years back. So I could see the Yankees making a play on a relief pitcher, or if they were to trade for a starter, say a Frankie Montez, because I don't think Castillo is a trade they want to make for the sheer fact they don't want to leave their minor league system naked. So I would have to say that Castillo, while it would be great, not likely happening, maybe a couple of years down the line in free agency. I know before we got on, you thought of something interesting. The Yankees were players on Shohei Ohtani before he came to the States. He ultimately chose California for travel reasons, going back home, and other reasons for that matter. But, he calls himself the modern-day Babe Ruth. That would be a phenomenal trade if the Yankees were to bring him in. But I love this Benintendi deal, man. It keeps Carpenter out of the outfield. It gets Gallo out of New York. Yankees just upgraded defensively in a big way, not to mention that, this is a great, rally starter. Guy could play,
He could play.
And that's what they needed. And now maybe, just maybe, on social media forums, these Yankee fans can finally stop the cries for another Brett Gardner reunion. Finally, put it away. Jimmy Neutron has retired.
I'll just go ahead and throw it out there. It's not going to stop.
No, never. I mean, dude, I get it. You got people clamoring that they want to get this guy's number retired. I'm like, dude, I get it. He's a lifelong Yankee. But you can't put him on the same wall with Thurman Munson and Mickey Mantle and Joe D and Ruth and Gehrig. Like they got to stop it, dude. They got to stop it.
Yeah.
It's unreal, bro. It's truly unreal. What are your thoughts on Montez? Do you think that's a realistic trade? I mean, the Athletics have pretty much traded all their other assets going into the season. Olsen's gone. Manaea is gone.
It's the Billy Bean effect. He does this all the time. They were a playoff team, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And then, well, you start off with, like you said, Chris Davis had a career year. And then he comes to Texas and just shits himself.
So basically, so what Gallo did, he's given us the Chris Davis treatment. I think that would be fair to say.
Absolutely.
Because I never thought anybody could be worse than Chris Davis in one particular season until I've seen what happened with Gallo here. And it's crazy. The other part, we traded for Rizzo and Gallo within a few days of each other. Rizzo's panned out well.
But and I thought he would, because he was used to that lifestyle. Coming from Chicago to New York, it's really not that much of a difference. It's, if you're a celebrity, you can walk around the streets with your head out high, everything. And the guy he's a clown. Let's face it, in a good way. He likes to make sure the team is having fun and make everyone laugh. Yeah. So his personality,
team first, always a team first guy.
Always team first guy. Unless if he's putting the game-winning pitching ball from the 2016 World Series in his back pocket. But he's panned out amazingly, and I didn't think he wouldn't struggle with it at all.
In order for him to be the face of that franchise, when they broke a century-long curse, that's all you need to know about that guy's ability to play under immense pressure and on the big stage. We spoke about it earlier, though. You firmly believe that the Yankees need more to beat the Astros, so I'm just going to flat out ask you, what do the Yankees need?
To get healthy, for one. You need a pitcher. You need a starting pitcher. You need an ace. You need a Castillo. But you can't go into a trade deadline with one player in mind, which to me leads to Montes. And go back to 2015, Sonny Gray. That's a big one that comes to mind. He was a big pitcher, and what happens? Oakland deals him off to New York. So this is one where I see Castillo is probably going to get traded somewhere within the National League, and Montes.
I could see that.
The guy coming to you guys.
And it's a decent consolation prize, but should this happen, the Yankees have a decision to make now too, because Luis Severino should be back soon, but where is he going to fit in this? Does he become the long relief guy? Honestly, when I look at the Yankee arms, he's the most adaptable to take on a bullpen role, because you would hypothetically have Cole, Cortez, Montes, Montgomery, Taillon.
Well, you were talking about it earlier today. So where would you put him? Yeah, let's talk about the long relief guy. Why not? You've got yourself someone that has the starter's mentality to come in there and perform. If you never know who your pitcher's going to be, he throws a pitch and something doesn't feel right. Or come playoff baseball, your starting pitcher for that game might have a bad first inning, and you need someone like a Severino to come in and take over that he can still give you a solid 7 innings. And then it also allows the Yankees the opportunity to get rid of Mr. Aroldis Chapman. Yeah,
Chapman and Gallo, both on the way out. I think the thing with Chapman is he's such an enigma, because I really believe that it's more mental than anything else. I really, truly believe that he has allowed some of those just bad thoughts to get in his head and really just affect him on such a bad level. And, he's so many years removed from pitching in the middle of ball games. It's just a weird fit all the way around. The other point I wanted to make on Severino, from an innings management standpoint, and being that this is the first year he's pitched in a couple, like this many games, they are definitely monitoring the pitch counts, the stress pitches coming down the stretch. Yeah. And he is the prime candidate. If they make a deal for an arm, that he's probably going to be that guy in the pen. Domingo Germán also, especially if they make a deal, he automatically would probably be demoted out of the rotation. So now you have two guys, and they have to compensate because you lost 2 big-time relievers. Zach Britton is going to be back very soon, but you don't know what you're getting. You got to see how it plays out.
Which leads me to the next guy. The guy I talked about right before. You just mentioned him, Shohei.
Mm-hmm.
You need another bat. You need an ace.
He fits both those bills.
Let's eliminate Juan Soto trade talks.
Yeah, that's not happening because their priority is to bring back Judge.
Right. So eliminate those talks. Give Judge the contract we know he's going to be due. Ohtani, like you said, he chose California for obvious reasons, a distance to family. But it's time for him to understand that with the Angels, he's not going to go anywhere. His career will burn just like Mike Trout's did. Mike Trout, thankfully, he's the player he is, but he's going to be one of the greats that never gets a ring.
It's terrible because when you saw it, I'll be honest, I was really shocked at how Joe Madden failed. Because when they got Joe Madden, I really thought that he might have changed their fortunes. Because I've been pretty accurate on most of my baseball preview in terms of who I thought was going where. But if I struck out on any team, it's definitely the Angels. And I was very wrong on them.
Right there. I mean, when he came to Tampa Bay, it was easy to say Tampa Bay, they're going to do well. When he goes to Chicago, what does he do? He ends one of the longest streaks in Major League Baseball history. So it's easy to sit there and say, oh, wow, Joe Madden going to Los Angeles and having Shohei and Mike Trout to begin with, like, yeah, they're going to do fantastic. They start off hot, and then what they do, lose 13 or 14 in a row, and just it didn't work out. So I 100% agree with you on Joe Madden. They would have been a team where I said they're going to own the AL West here by this year, if not next.
We have a Stephen A. Smith with two Fs. Who is more of an all-time New York Yankee, Tino Martinez or Don Mattingly? That's an easy one for me, the captain, Don Mattingly. Carried the team during very dark times in the 80s. Happens to be my favorite baseball player. But I will say this for Tino. The fan base did not like him off the jump. Part of that was because of our very rich rivalry during those years with Ken Griffey Jr., Edgar Martinez, Tino Martinez, Jay Buhner, the big unit, those Seattle teams that we battled. A-Rod was right behind them. Junior ended up going out to Cincinnati. But to answer your question, Stephen, it is definitely Don Mattingly, in my opinion, truly with the exception of maybe a Pete Rose and some of the steroid guys that didn't need to use it. I'm talking about Bonds, A-Rod, some of the obvious guys that are not in the Hall that should be based on talent alone. Outside of those guys, outside of Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, I wholeheartedly believe Don Mattingly is more deserving than damn near anyone on being in the Hall of Fame. 9 Gold Gloves, career batting average of 307. The one and only playoffs he was in, he hit over 400. And like I said, there was no wild card for the majority of Mattingly's career. Some of those Yankee teams in the mid-'80s could have definitely qualified as wild cards. But Tino made his mark and was accepted by the fan base. And one of the big iconic Tino moments was the huge home run, but not to mention that fight with Armando Benitez, where Darryl Strawberry, who wasn't even playing in the game, came out and just snuffed this dude.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
I'm getting nostalgic. Good question, though. I like that, and thank you for watching. Damn.
I got to agree with you on all that.
Got me pumped right now. So you're thinking Ohtani is potentially a real thing, or do you think that's more of just a Yankee fan's fantasy?
Well, in all these trade talks, the name Ohtani keeps coming up. And if you're the Yankees, a team that's always willing to give up their farm system, why not go get yourself a young Ohtani? You team Ohtani and Judge up together? Come on, talk with he like I said, he's not going anywhere in Los Angeles. He's out of there after next year. If you're the Angels, you've got to come to the realization that it's time to blow it up.
You get Ohtani, he essentially becomes, I would have to think, your everyday DH.
Absolutely.
This signals a lesser role for a Matt Carpenter, which some people might not mind because of the fact that his hot start is not sustainable. And even taking it a step further, I would have to think that a couple of years down the line, Giancarlo Stanton, believe it or not, could be the odd man out because of the fact that he has a limited skill set in the sense that he wants to play the field, but whenever he plays the field consistently, he tends to have these injury issues.
Exactly. You nailed it on the dot on that one. I mean, and
he's having a bad year too. I mean, the power's there. The ribbies, he'll still climb to close to 100. But for what they paid, they're not getting that on the return. And I love Stanton. I'm just being honest.
Correct. And we know the power's there because the All-Star game, the photo of him connecting with the ball said it all. The compression into that ball, I mean, the power will not ever be gone. But it's like
he's got historic exit velo. Like historic.
Oh, he does. I mean, look at the velocity. It comes out, 127 miles? That's insane.
That's like getting hit by name me your favorite car.
I'd rather get hit by a Randy Johnson fastball, actually.
Yeah.
be that bird. No, but
neither one would be pleasant.
Right. But as far as Ohtani, I mean, he knocks off two birds with one stone. He gives you a bat, and he also brings the pitching mentality to it. And I mean, find something. Give me one negative on the guy.
I really can't find one. The guy plays. He has the mentality of the love for the game, similar to Junior, when Junior was the face of baseball prior to Derek Jeter. I would have to say that he brings that kid mentality. Just loves to play the game, does things the right way. He's got to get out of there because, to your point, with what's happened to Mike Trout, and even seeing Albert. Now, Albert was not the same player, and that was a terrible contract they gave Albert. I'm happy Albert's back home. But, I mean, even him, he was collecting dust there and getting old, and they kind of did him dirty at the end, too. So if I'm Mike Trout even looking at this shit, I do not have nor possess that same loyalty moving forward. If I'm Mike Trout, I eventually demand a trade because enough's enough, dude.
And I'm sure it's going to eventually happen. I don't think it'll happen this year, but I could see it happening more next year. And we might finally see the Bryce Harper, Mike Trout playing at home together in Philadelphia that a lot of people have been calling for, especially Philly fans. As much as I hate Philly, it might happen. And that would make sense for it to happen.
That would be cool. That would actually be pretty cool. And, that's another team that's been on the up lately. Good friend of the show, Jim Boyle, who's a Phillies fan, made a point that the Pens getting a lot better. They're 4 over 500, definitely still in the mix, potentially as a long shot to get a wild card. Canning Joe Girardi, they've played a lot better. And it's not that guys suddenly forget to manage. It's just that sometimes teams need a new voice.
Changes
because Joe Madden, Joe Girardi. Look at Buck Showalter. Buck Showalter's always been in the wrong place at the wrong time. He had the Yankees with the best record in the American League prior to his strike. Him and the boss didn't get along. After 95, he was gone. Look what he's doing with the Mets right now. He also helped build up your team as well as the Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
The guy has. It's crazy to think that I think it's like 21 or 22 seasons in the bigs, he has never been a part of a championship team, but he has contributed to so many of them. And a lot of people feel that his managerial, similar to Tony La Russa, is kind of outdated. But they said this on the Yes telecast last night that he pushes back on a lot of the analytics. And the truth of the matter is that there's a lot of great conversations going on in Queens right now. I got to give credit where it's due. If somebody would have asked me a month ago who's a better team, I would tell them the Yankees and say it confidently. Today, after what I witnessed these 2 nights, and I don't formulate an opinion off of 2 games without Nestor and without Cole, but the bottom line is they are playing better than us right now.
And, last night when Aaron Judge gets his 38th home run in the first inning, it almost seemed like, all right, the Yankees, they're going to take this series.
Yeah.
But the Mets answer.
They pushed right back.
They pushed right back. They punched and they punched harder. And all of a sudden it's 4-2. And like you said, right now, today, the Mets are the better team. However, who will be the better team come September?
It remains to be seen, but to your point, and the Yankees needing this second ace to join Cole, because although I love what Nestor has done, do I consider him an ace? No. He's doing ace-like things. Do I think it's sustainable? All I can say is I hope so. I think Matt Blake has done a great job, the pitching coach of the Yankees, to make this possible. Even Jameson Taillon, who lately is going through a rough patch, he's helped kind of have a career renaissance under Blake's watch, as well as our current closer, Clay Holmes. I mean, about a month ago, he broke a franchise record set by Mariano Rivera for most innings without giving up a run, which is something to be proud of. Right now, what the Yankees are experiencing is they're having a problem bridging it to get to Holmes. It's just been a rough 2.5, 3 weeks for the Yankees, and it's bound to happen. It's a very long season. But to your point, they need that because can the Mets be that team? DeGrom is coming back. He got lit up in the Syracuse start. I don't read too much into that. He's getting his shit back together.
Yeah.
He's getting his shit back together. But that 1-2 of Scherzer and DeGrom is flat out scary. And anything that Taijuan Walker does or anybody else that pitches behind them, Chris Bassett, it's a bonus. And one thing I got to say about the Mets, they probably could use an upgraded catcher. They probably could use an enforcer similar to what we have with Josh Donaldson. But the Mets are definitely primed for a run if DeGrom is right.
Yeah.
And in that regard, as important as pitching is in October, they do have a leg up on us right now. That's not what I want to say, but it's what I have to say.
And it's just speaking the truth. And
yeah,
I mean, it's recognizing the talent and the chemistry right now that the Mets are showing to Major League Baseball. And
I think seeing the Yanks really motivated them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, they own New York right now.
At the moment, they do. We still have a better record, but yes, we're not playing good ball, and we do play them 2 more times in the Bronx.
In the Bronx, correct.
I tend to think that it's a little more important for Met fans in the sense that this is the first time in pretty much ever that this late in the year, because even the year that the Mets went to the World Series, they were a wild card when they played us.
That's right.
They didn't have to go through Atlanta. Atlanta was like in the 90s to the Mets what the Astros have been to the Yankees in current times. Couldn't get past them. And the reason the Mets advanced that year is that they didn't have to play them.
Just what did I tell you about the Yankees?
Yeah. We were thinking about teams that can knock out the Astros. You mentioned Seattle, maybe Tampa.
But I think Tampa more, yeah.
Yeah, they have the history with them for sure.
And that's why you need an ace. That's why you need another pitcher, because in order to beat the Astros, it's going to have to be your pitching, which has failed the Yankees. I mean, let's not talk about
the losses have been close, even digging into the Astros series. I recently did a show on that. Severino pitched the same game 2 times, and each game he had one shitty pitch that cost them the game. But the common denominator that both those games had, that Severino lost, is that we were not able to break through and left too many guys stranded. Because when you lose and you're given a quality start's 3 runs or less, you didn't do your job at offense. And when you look at the Yankee lineup, you expect more.
Can you hear me still?
I do.
Okay, cool. I didn't know if I got disconnected. I was looking again. Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. I agree.
I'll tell you, dude, it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out, and it's going to be coming like simultaneous to the beginning of the NFL season. And I want to let our viewers know, Zappy's going to be back, part of the NFC East preview and just some football shows in general. Going to definitely be getting you on for some of that. And it's going to be cool, man. You get to kind of reunite with a lot of the guys that we all kind of grew up together on certain levels. You know, Brett, Wags, going to make some new friends too. My guys Quentin and Idris. My boy Zach, who's a big Charger fan. But Zap, is there anything you want to speak on before we get out of here tonight?
Well, first things first, just want to send a shout out to 8. This is a beer brewed by Troy Aikman.
That's dope.
So if it gets out to 8 Light Lager or Troy Aikman, hey, sporting for you. No, man, I mean, like you said, we got football getting ready to start here soon. Baseball is heating up. This is the best time of the year. We got college football, NFL, and the true playoff teams of Major League Baseball we get to start learning everything.
I eventually got to get out there and do one of these giant Cowboy games in AT&T. I have wanted to check out that stadium for a while. That has to happen. Oddly enough, and I'm sure you already know this, we play on Thanksgiving this year.
Yes, sir.
NFL is doing it right. The Giants were a little pissed off about the Monday Night Football game against you because of the fact that it's on Rosh Hashanah. But we're going to dive into football very soon. Zappy, it's really awesome to get you on for your first time on the show, and I look forward to having you here a lot more frequently. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. We're going to continue our conversation, but until next time, I am out. He's Zappy. I'm Richie. Thank you for watching.
Good night, everyone.